on average, millennials share 20 to 30 memes a day.
She is a Gen Z meme queen.
Jetzt hat sich Memes gewünscht rund das Bild.
Don't mess with the cat ladies.
And what if I told you that it's not just for entertainment? Memes can actually shape your reality.
Let's go, Brandon.
Sont des mèmes. Ils pullulent sur les réseaux sociaux à tel point qu'un linguiste estime qu'il s'agit d'une nouvelle forme de langage.
If all of this sounds familiar to you, then congratulations, you are chronically online.
So almost 2 billion people are sharing memes every day. And so what if they all united?
Black Lives Matter!
For example, hashtag Black Lives Matter. And in Hong Kong,
It is the heart of the umbrella movement.
the image of the umbrella also became a meme that unified people in protest. But what happened in Ukraine is absolutely incredible, the explosion of memes that we saw.
We sunk one of the Russian ships.
And it even caught the attention of researchers at Stanford University.
Then this prank got out of control. Is it a phallus measuring contest?
It was forbidden to laugh.
And that really made me look more into what the role of memes may be. We really need to rethink the impact that memes have on all of us, no matter our age, nationality, or background. I'm a linguistic anthropologist, so I study language politics, and the area of my focus is Ukraine. When I think of February 24th, 2022, when the war started, it was this feeling of shock.
As the ambassador of Ukraine in Germany, who faced the first days of this invasion in Berlin, I can say that they looked at us as if we were a hopelessly ill patient.
The Russians will hope very much that they can get their tanks to the presidential palace probably during the course of tomorrow.
If the pace of the invasion continues as it has up until now, that Kiev could be encircled and fall to the Russians within 24 hours.
Suddenly, people all at once, collectively by the whole country, found themselves in distress. This unexpected trauma is so intense, and there is no way to protect ourselves against it, because you cannot be prepared for distress, for enormous collective trauma. Bombings, screams, missiles, whistling sounds, destruction, confusion, panic, mass exodus. A meme was needed. It just depends what kind. At the time of the full-scale invasion, I was serving as the head of Snake Island border post. My first encounter with the cruiser Moscow happened directly on February 24th. When it was passing by the island, it seemed it was even longer than our island in some places.
They had 580 people in a crew, while we had just a few unarmed people.
We can fire a Moscow for a week, and we will only scratch the paint. And one volley of fire from them will leave nothing of us.
In all military books, the same thing is written. If the enemy outnumbers you in personnel, equipment, and quality by 10 times, you have only one option: to surrender.
It's a Russian warship. I suggest you lay down your weapons and surrender.
They offered to surrender and promised them a good and wealthy life.
If I agreed, I would be set for the rest of my life, and for my great-grandchildren. Everyone would have enough, something like that. We soldiers do not gamble, and immediately understood that it was some kind of scam.
Otherwise, You will be subjected to a bombing assault. Do you copy?
We were hiding there, between the house and the wooden shed. The first plane flew in. We heard an explosion. The aircraft began bombing us. Right after the airstrike, rockets from Moscow started hitting the island.
The chance to survive was small, however.
Our side remained silent until the evening, until 5 p.m. At approximately 5 p.m., a response was given.
This was simply the emotional state of the soldier. He listened over and over, realizing that he had nothing to lose.
Russian warship, go f yourself.
I was lost for words by that response.
What happened next made headlines around the world. Russian warship. It was the go F yourself heard round the world.
It was fire. My supervisor called and said, "Natalia, your phrase is displayed on a billboard in Greece." I personally recorded that phrase on my dictaphone and then passed it on to my commanders.
I will convey a message to the Russian Federation, a delegation sitting in this room, and I will quote the Ukrainian border guards. Русский военный корабль пошел.
It was an undiplomatic meme. However, that was the reason it provoked such a reaction from the world and Ukraine.
People who would take down road signs so that the Russian army would have a harder time orienting, they started putting up road signs that told the Russian army where they can go in these words to go F themselves, essentially. Русский военный корабль, иди. And so these signs would say, go this way and that way.
That translate as yourself, go yourself again, go yourself back in Russia.
This is an assault on the archetypal image of the father, who was the guarantor, saying, "We are the family, the Soviet Union, my 15 children." And then the father betrays the family. What does the son say? "Oh, really? Then f*** you." Thus, the image of this father shatters. That's why I think this meme was highly charged, awaited.
It reminds me of Patrick Henry's famous words, "Give me liberty or eat my ass."
I cried at night. I went to my supervisor and asked, "Colonel, did they all really die?"
My name is Yuri. Call sign is Smile. At the beginning of the full-scale war, I was on Snake Island. We were the youngest among the Marines. I was in captivity for exactly 9 months. Any interrogation began with the phrase, "Who told the ship to f*** itself?" We replied, "We didn't know. We said they were border guards. The border guards said they were Marines." Interrogators broke the guys' ribs and split their heads with batons. They were furious with the person who said it.
Memes always carry certain magic. They represent some kind of an existential flash. They eased the tension and demonstrated that a small nation, compared to a massive armada, withstand. They gave us strength.
Do you remember the first days when the full-scale invasion began? Everyone was carrying boxes, loading, running. My name is Dmytro Kovalenko. I'm a meme creator.
I am Maksym Holyk, and I am a meme creator.
The first picture, directed by the Russian warship Go F yourself. It went viral. People were literally writing things like, "We're sitting in Chernihiv right now in a shelter and we're cracking up at your pictures. So keep going."
I was sitting in the corridor because of the constant alarms and shelling. It was terrifying in Kiev. Obolon was close to the areas already occupied by the Russians. When planes flew overhead, there was almost no choice but to spend most of the day sitting in the corridor, crouched down, drawing pictures on a tablet. It felt like I had a mission, to keep going and calm both myself and others down. That scrolling gesture, just 5 to 10 seconds and then move on. What can you fit into 5 to 10 seconds? A meme, short, emotionally intense information that resonates because of its emotional charge and tone. It will live and gather millions of views.
And indeed, statistics show that there was this explosion of memes in terms of how many memes were being produced. There started being many, many more phrases, images, drawings, stories that people were sharing, and a lot of them were spreading like memes. And this made me think of why this was happening and what this was, and that's where I hit upon this metaphor of memes as antibodies. So memes were like this defense mechanism just exploding.
The city was surrounded on 3 sides. I knew I had to fight with a cool head, calmly. This mindset probably came from sports. I remember international competitions where I burned out just before stepping onto the mat. I trained and was prepared, but I was so nervous that I couldn't perform at all. Then Olena Shiyan took this photo. She walked by, smiled and said, "Oh, great photo." I replied, "Okay then, great, post it." The story behind it was actually pretty simple. There was this viral image of Putin sitting at a ridiculously long table. And it just needed something added to it. I saw Kim in those socks and thought, he'd fit perfectly. I made it within 10 minutes. Actually, less, about 5. And it went totally viral.
Yeah, that was cool.
There are a lot of memes about Vitaly Kim. He was just so impressive with his confidence and calmness. Given what was happening in the south and across Ukraine at the time, I think it really helped boost morale. Could you sit the way you did in the picture at this table?
You can't step into the same river twice. It's a different office now. My old one was destroyed. A Caliber missile flew through the window into our reception. 37 team members were killed.
There was a discussion within our team about whether it was appropriate to make memes and joke when there was a war going on and people were dying. Just the next day, I came across a funny post from a Ukrainian stand-up comedian on Facebook and noticed it had so many positive reactions. I realized that even under so much stress, I could still laugh, and it helped relieve my stress. We created a meme channel back in 2020 during the pandemic, when Ukrainians started generating a lot of memes. At the beginning of the invasion, we focused more on jokes about our successes at the front line, about our heroic soldiers, and about volunteers doing an incredible job. And of course, we began mocking the Russian army.
They had nearly 200,000 followers, and it was amazing. It was a great audience that just got it. No need to explain anything. Then, just like that, the page was shut down with no way to restore it.
I think it was partly Russians complaining on posts, leading to blocks, and partly its Facebook and Instagram algorithms. You post something with the word missile, and it gets blocked.
I've been blocked more than once. It put me into a mini depression. I mean, I had 25,000 followers. That hurts. When you built your channel, created quality content, and then you get blocked, especially when there is a war in your country. It's f***ed up.
Yes. When it was seen on cameras that there were smiles and laughs, the prison staff came in and used physical violence. Laughing was forbidden. Strictly forbidden.
You can mutilate the body, make it completely immobile, harder to break the spirit. A smile shows a level of confidence.
The power of a meme is that a person can't be scared or laugh at the same time. They're either scared or laughing.
I also had a meme of Zelensky in a sunflower field saying, "There won't be a billion trees, there will be a billion sunflowers."
There was a woman in Hhrystyna who went up to the occupying forces. She went up to the Russian soldiers and gave them sunflower seeds to put in their pockets, telling them that way at least something good will come out from them when they lay down in the Ukrainian soil.
Put some sunflower seeds in your pocket so they'll grow when you fall here.
And that went viral, and that became another meme that traveled far and wide. Again, showing sort of defiance.
On one hand, it's a funny and cool meme. But on the other hand, it's quite tragic. Because of the story of that woman who first said about the seeds, put them in your pocket.
There also was a meme of a particularly scrawny Russian soldier, which they called the Chmonya, which circulated around. This really pathetic individual.
This embodies the Russian soldier, who is actually pathetic. With these memes, Ukrainians have shown that they shouldn't be afraid of them. This goes back to Catherine the Great, who hired historians to create the mythology of the great Russian Empire. The Western audience viewed the Soviet Union and Russia through the lens of the film The Cranes Are Flying, featuring beautiful actors. Russia invested in its facade.
Key ideas that Russia was trying to project is that they are all powerful, that everybody should fear them. If you don't love their culture, at least you'll fear them.
Chmonya helped overcome the fear of perceiving Russians as an unstoppable Goliath. The reputation of the so-called second strongest army in the world was shattered. It was just a myth.
I'm confident that in the first months of the war, we won the information war against the Russians. I'm curious, what do you think, as a serviceman, about the meme regarding Chmonya and related ones? How pathetic they are? What do you think?
Well, it seems to me that at the beginning of the invasion, it was important for people to stop being afraid. Then this prank got out of control. Back then and now, we already had a situation where people thought, these idiots will just run away, they're so stupid, and so on. But they're smart. They adapt. We can't underestimate them.
But then I heard about Bucha.
Horror, inhumanity, war crimes, and genocide. They might be some of the worst images you have ever seen on your television, but they are the devastating reality of Putin's war on the people of Ukraine.
This was the road where so many bodies were found in the street after the Russians finally left after their occupation.
Stories of people being held captive, being gang raped, being children being raped in front of their parents, parents raped in front of their children, mutilated, tortured. It was just unthinkable horror.
I think this country is traumatized by these images that have been coming out of not only Bucha but also other places.
First and foremost is confusion. How this could have happened. Even 3 years into the war, many still don't have a sense how this could occur, how it's even possible. At that moment, it was the peak of all of it.
And that trauma, you sort of lose some of your willpower, right? I mean, how can you be joking and sharing memes when you find out that all of these people have been killed, tortured, raped, disappeared?
And then it sank.
Ukraine hit Russia's flagship vessel, the Moskva.
If you go back 50 days, right around to the beginning of this thing, you might recall Snake Island and the soldiers there that received an ultimatum from a Russian warship and apparently told them to go after themselves. Well, that ship has now been sunk.
You know, Ukraine has a tiny navy and, their resources are small. But here, they downed the Moskva, Moscow. You've got that sort of symbolic name as well.
I'm just curious how they delivered this news to Putin. How did it go down? What was he doing? It deserves a whole movie. Maybe something by the Coen brothers or Tarantino.
Imagining hysterical screaming like in the film Downfall. The scene where Hitler is swearing.
Yeah, that's exactly it. When that ship sank, I just sketched hands sticking out of the water. Like, the ship's already gone. The crew is still reaching up with hands, gasping for air. I think you had a meme. We'd have been better to ourselves about the ship. It came out 2 weeks before they sank the cruiser Moscow.
Yeah, I remember drawing and posting it. It was like their destiny.
Russian warship Go F Yourself was the first stamp that Ukrainian Post had issued after full-scale invasion.
A stamp? They have a stamp that says that? Ukraine just went postal.
We issued the stamp on April 12th, and on the night of the 13th, the ship had sunk. So we issued a new stamp with the small coupon, Russian warship done. People thought our stamps have predictive abilities.
Dear all, please look how many people are already here. There's no need to come today. Those on the list will get through, and anyone not on the list will receive stamps while supplies last. Please don't come today.
Well, we'd never lived in a country where people queued up for a stamp. That was never, but there were kilometre-long lines. Stamps became so popular that I made a meme based on Pulp Fiction. The scene where John Travolta opens the case. In the movie, they don't reveal what's inside, but it's something very valuable. So in the meme, he opens the case, and there are just these stamps lined up. It went really well, because at one point, the stamp with the ship was practically the top item in Ukraine. I feel like you could have traded it for apartments, cars.
The initial number of the stamp was 1 million, and I think in a few days it was gone.
Today we serve thousands and thousands of people. We made an exception, but there will be no sales tomorrow. That's it for this week. The next sale will be online.
But I think everyone wanted to have a piece of a history for themselves because, SMS at some point it erased, right?
It was a celebration, pure celebration.
It was necessary, like a spark of hope, when your symbol, something you're so proud of, just gets completely f***ed.
And in a way, this brought back that sense of defiance, that even in facing horrific trauma, memes have continued to help in the Ukrainian resistance to this war.
Months of war, what we remember most is the people's resistance. People were making Molotov cocktails, volunteers delivering food to soldiers, evacuating civilians. It was a grassroots resistance.
Ukrainians are taking the time to vote on a stamp design in the middle of a war. That is an unbelievable, unstoppable sense of civic duty. In light of tanks coming down the streets, please remember that alternate side parking is suspended.
So when we announced the national survey on which stamp should be the next after Russian warship done, as I mentioned, it was thought widely that it has predictive ability. I was confident, the entire team thought that stamp is that Putin would be the winner. And it was the case 1 month before. But then 1 month later, the mood of people had changed. So that's what they wanted.
The farmers versus the Russian army. Sometimes they just had to abandon their tanks, either because they didn't know where they were going or they ran out of fuel. And so you started getting a lot of videos and stories of Ukrainian farmers pulling up their tractors and towing the tanks away to turn over to the Ukrainian army or to use for parts.
The Ukrainian peaceful tractor, the one believed to be a provider that should feed the world, which is truly the case in Ukraine, suddenly finds itself pulling the weight of armed conflict, destruction, devastation. It's a fascinating, honest meme, something you could explore and analyze endlessly.
Yes, that stamp is genuine. The stories about tractors and their movement all started right here, when those memes appeared. Each one served as a sort of how-to guide. Some people even wanted to create those memes in reality. They wanted the video. So they'd take a tractor, drive it, film it, and post it. In total, we managed to pull over 200 units of equipment in the Mykolaiv region for our armed forces, including armored vehicles, Pantsir missile system, and other unique finds.
And this becomes actually the most sold stamps. 8 million stamps was sold of this issue.
Well, perhaps not surprised, because memes have been such a vivid topic in what's been happening, that a group of scholars at Stanford University had started collecting a corpus of memes of the Ukrainian war. And not just in Stanford, there's been interest in Ukrainian memes in lots of scholarly circles because they're such a powerful and unique phenomenon. Unique, I should say, in that this is probably the first meme war. It's interesting to think, well, what's happening in Russia with memes? And there's one story of Russians trying to steal a Ukrainian meme. So, Доброго вечора, ми з України.
Доброго вечора, ми з України.
Now it feels a bit cringy, like Radio Baraktar or Javelin Pizza and so on. But when it first came out, that bit, it was awesome.
This song played in every video about up Russians.
Yeah, all these videos, something flying, burning, exploding, I watched it all.
Then good evening, we are from Ukraine.
And the beat is building.
With Marko Halinevich from Daha Bracha saying, Доброго вечора, ми з України. Good evening, we're from Ukraine. Became a meme also. And it became like a phrase that the military then used. Officials regional officials would use that to start their video reports.
To rephrase, "Good evening, we are from Ukraine," it's "This is what we're capable of." They threw Molotov cocktails, even destroyed equipment with jars of pickles. There was a woman in Kyiv who knocked down a drone flying by her window. That became a meme too. Even our pickles are fighting the Russians. Be careful. Good afternoon.
Good evening. We are from Ukraine.
What does that phrase mean to you?
It means that we are Ukrainians. We are united. We'll win.
And there's another funny part. Maybe you heard. The Russians stole that beat. And I think they made...
Good morning, we are from Russia.
Can you believe it?
Добрый вечер, мы из Украины. Доброе утро, мы из России. Доброе утро, мы из России.
Well, you know, when a person steals things, steals someone else's underwear.
If they're stealing toilets and stuff like that, then...
They were stealing everything. Everything said about them, like stealing toilets, is true. Not just toilets and washing machines, even worn underwear and bras.
So, just the song, no big deal.
Russia actually tried to steal that meme. So they put out their own song using similar techno instrumentation, but saying, "Доброе утро, мы из России." Good morning, we're from Russia. And so that brings up the question of, can a meme be manufactured, or does it have to emerge organically from people's creativity? Can you make something that will get picked up? I found somebody, another scholar, that has been working on this question.
I'm Lydia Smola, and I've been studying issues related to informational and psychological influence of propaganda for over 20 years. When I began writing a book on memes, people saw it as a professor's joke, something not to be taken seriously, even dismissed it as pseudoscience. At the National Technical University of Ukraine, Kiev Polytechnic Institute by Igor Sikorsky, I teach a course on information wars, which includes a series of lectures on mimetic weaponry. Today, these wonderful lecture halls are empty because of the war. Students are studying online. I deeply miss seeing the live expressions in my audience.
Hi, Lydia.
Hi, Lada.
Nice to finally meet you. Do you think that memes created by the government or by businesses and companies can be as powerful as the ones that are just created by people themselves?
Well, this story started 20 years ago.
Oh, darn, we lost the connection. I think the power must have gone out.
More than 20 years. In fact, we can definitely say over 20 years. Russia has been trying to use memes or mimetic weaponry against Ukraine, aiming to discredit the country for more than 2 decades. At Moscow State University, several professors taught courses for journalists specifically on the use of memes and published numerous articles on the topic. I have read these publications. Since 2004 to 2006, they started producing memes portraying Putin in the status of a Tsar. Memes appeared showing Putin with a halo over his head, which looked like a gas burner. They also released memes internationally to promote the idea that Ukraine is a failed state, a country that hasn't succeeded. After the start of the war, what we initially called the ATO, and the annexation of Crimea, they really showcased their capabilities. I could point to the Crimea of ours meme, which became incredibly popular. It played a significant role in uniting Russian society. Before the full-scale invasion, I reviewed some Western analytics about the amount invested in Russian propaganda, and the figure was 64 billion. That's 64 billion invested in Russia Today and satellite channels.
Abroad, Russia often successfully manipulates the international media landscape, leaving the public confused and leaders in the West slow to react.
But Russia is also waging a war against our democracies, an energy war, a cyber war, and information war. Democracies need to take steps to defend themselves in all these areas.
So introduce yourself, please.
Well, there is not really much to say, if I'm to be honest.
For example, a name and surname.
Oh, name's Camille, and I think that's more than enough. I never made it as a wise man, couldn't cut as a poor man stealing, but I couldn't just stand and watch what was going on east from us, so I had to do something, I felt like.
We're going to introduce you to the mysterious lore of NAFO, the North Atlantic Fellas Organization. Now you might be wondering, what is this dog doing behind my back? Why is it so wide? This is from Kamakamelia, the man who created this meme.
So I just took Polish camo, a Polish airborne beret, a Polish navy patch, just very funny dog. Looks damn as shit. Like he looks like he doesn't have a single brain cell, right? Like he just stares at you mockingly all along. People saw mine are like, where'd you get it? Oh, made it myself. Can you make me one too? But of course, people are impatient, so people wanted to jump the queue. So people started offering donations for avatars. And they started with $20. Then within a week was $260. Within a month it was 20,000. 2 years later, it was about 15 million.
I can still get a fella? I mean, how do I go about it?
Of course, if you make a donation.
NAFO, 69 Sniffing Brigade. Now in Kyiv-Pechorsk are delivering trucks, medicines, and other equipment.
We sank one of the Russian ships last year. So the drone the dogs outfound for sank a ship, the second biggest ship that they had in the Black Sea. So sometimes the memes and the crowdfunding comes together.
NAFO is an organization with a reference to NATO. A group of people who have come together to create memes.
A magnificent online community trolling Russian propagandists and posting amazing user-generated content.
Just in case you missed, Russian ambassador tweeted something in an old Russian genocidal style. No mercy to the Ukrainian population.
So Ulyanov, he's a Russian diplomat, which means as much as a hammer without a handle, right? And he's one day decided he's gonna take on a cartoon dog on Twitter. But he didn't realize there was hundreds of them, or even thousands at that point.
NAFO fighters started a biblical cyberbullying campaign provoking Russian ambassador go into oblivion for 1 week.
That's why you see so many like pro-Rus accounts just disappearing over, like from one day to another.
So, what more to say than keep fighting the good fight, because NATO expansion is non-negotiable.
NAFO struck at Russia's ego, showing that this so-called greatness doesn't exist. Imagine, even Maria Zakharova, the Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson, complained in her statements, saying they aren't playing fair.
Despite spending millions on huge propaganda networks, the authoritarian Russian government still hasn't produced any funny jokes.
They run by FSB, they have to follow bureaucracy of their own, and by the time they take action, the truth's already out. It has to go to the guy in charge disagrees, it goes back to someone, and then goes back again, and it's just an endless cycle of nonsense. I work for no one, yet everyone. It's a collective group. Nobody rules over anybody. So that's why mainly it works. This is something people do because they want to do it. There is no pressure, there is no force, there is no nothing.
A meme will die quickly if it encourages a stronger meme that simply overpowers it. The Russian response, something like, "My phallus against yours, let's see who's stronger," was delayed and ineffective. This was just a basic informational warfare. But it was a misstep, and just a demonstration of an old phallus. By the time they were waving it around, showing it on screen, and painting it on missiles, it was too late. It doesn't work. A message only works where there's demand for it.
Скажіть паляниця.
Паляниця, мужики.
We're locals. Honestly, locals.
Safe travels.
Take care, lads.
Take care.
This meme about Palyanitsa, for me, it's such a complex linguistic thing. Like, we laughed about how Russians just can't pronounce the word.
Здесь получится, давай сюда. Паляница. 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 Паляница.
It's a very quick way to identify friend or foe.
Yeah, exactly.
The ideas that Russia was trying to spread, that Putin and other top officials were voicing. One was that Ukraine doesn't exist. Well, okay, if Ukraine exists, Ukraine and Russia are really the same. Ukrainian and Russian are really the same. Palyanitsa means this round loaf of bread. And Russian and Ukrainian have different phonologies, different sound systems. This is similar to the difference between French and Italian. And then they couldn't pronounce it right, so it became a shibboleth. So this is this biblical term that refers to a word that gives away the enemy. So palyanitsa became a meme where even children would be stopping cars and asking people to say palyanitsa.
Скажіть паляниця.
But now they will have to learn this word from a completely different perspective.
Zelensky claimed that the Palyanitsa can reach at least 20 Russian bases.
Palyanitsa has been revealed as the nation's new long-range missile drone.
We know it will be hard for Russia even to pronounce what hit them.
Memes can also serve as a powerful tool that encourages and reinforces a sense of national identity.
We are a different nation with a different cultural and mental aspect. Ukraine, the heart of Europe, has always been involved in wars, but it has never been the aggressor, only a defender. That's why I believe our memes carry more energetic power. Now they're even more important than at the beginning. Initially, the emotion stood alone as a surge, but over time, fatigue has set in.
Yeah, we can't just roll in on tractors and defeat the Russians anymore. They're learning too. Right now, having weapons is essential for us to continue defending our country, reclaim our territories, and bring our people back. So at this point, weapons are the top priority.
Heavy artillery, armed vehicles, air defense systems, and combat aircraft.
You give us weapons, we sacrifice our lives, and the war is contained in Ukraine. This is it.
This is a shameful chapter. I'm ashamed of my country, I'm ashamed of my president, and I'm ashamed of myself. And I haven't done more to help these people. It is really, really heartbreaking.
The United Kingdom is considering the possibility of supplying missiles. US President Joe Biden promised further military aid after announcing the delivery of heavy weapons last week. And what is the federal government doing?
Germany is one of the most successful economies in the world and a major weapons producer.
Right now, Russian President Putin wants to subdue Ukraine, to destroy its culture and identity. We support Ukraine in its fight against the aggressor. For the first time in German history, we are sending weapons to a combat zone in large quantity.
It was on February the 27th when the government made the decision to provide weapons to Ukraine for the first time. Chancellor Scholz delivered a speech in Parliament and there was a sense of collective relief. Germany was finally starting to take the right side of history. Then, in reality, very little happened.
The Chancellor has generally refused to supply heavy weapons to Ukraine. This is quite an unusual visit for the Chancellor. In this way, he shows that he supports Ukraine.
It was a game of cat and mouse. We knew no weapons were actually coming, while Germany's government and defense minister kept telling the German people daily, we're helping so much.
We will support Ukraine with weapons so that it can defend itself.
When we asked, so can you show us the list of what you've sent? They said, we can't do that. That's when I made that tweet. This round that is tied up with that blue Soviet-style tape. It illustrates that nothing has happened. We still haven't received any propelled howitzers, any Marders, any Leopards, or any Gepard. Nothing. When you realize that the snail will reach Ukraine, maybe in 10 years.
In Bild Ammerbend, once again the most famous and at the same time most controversial diplomat in Germany, Andrii Melnik.
Well, everyone's used to diplomacy and being all about smiling, negotiating, bargaining. It's not clear what we really mean behind our smiles. Yes, no, or something else. Then suddenly, something very powerful is introduced. It's as if diplomats come to life, becoming just people who can laugh and joke about it, shifting things to a different level. We managed to get this reaction in Germany. The responses varied wildly, from outrage over why the German government wasn't doing enough, to actual action.
The Leopard 1 and the infantry fighting vehicle Marder are what the industry could have been gradually supplying since March. However, this still hasn't happened. Fortunately, we cannot explain the reason.
Is it that he can't, or he doesn't want to? If Olaf Scholz and his cabinet don't agree, they'll be left with the image of being blockers.
The Germans once again woke up from their lethargic sleep. They started writing letters to newspapers, speaking out on social media, of course. In the end, Defense Minister Lambrecht resigned.
Calls for Berlin to approve delivery of Leopard tanks have been growing louder.
He said that they were basically weighing up the pros and cons of sending those tanks, and that they needed to look at things like the number of stocks and how those tanks would be sent, and time and logistics.
I remember he hesitated for a long time, couldn't decide how to help. So I thought, well, we definitely need tanks, so why not draw a leopard? People started using their image on posters around the world. Various foreigners wrote to me asking if they could use it. South Koreans asked if I could make something similar with their prime minister, who was also undecided about it. But in their case, it had to be a panther, like the K2 Panther tank. I made it, and they used it in their protests too.
After that, you created an English language page.
These memes were mainly aimed at a Western audience, to convey to Western politicians that they need to help, and little push, need
magic kick.
I think the most impactful memes, at least in the German context, or at least in my personal experience, were the ones related to the image of an offended liver sausage.
Beleidigte Leberwurst. Beleidigte Leberwurst.
Beleidigte Leberwurst.
It means taking offense for no reason. This isn't kindergarten. We're talking about the bloodiest war since 1945. That was the context of the quote. Of course, the media twisted it to say the ambassador called Schultz a sausage.
Beleidigte Leberwurst. Beleidigte Leberwurst.
Beleidigte Leberwurst.
Beleidigte
Leberwurst.
Behaving like a, quote, offended liver sausage.
Oder auf Französisch, saucisse for insulté.
And it was in the New York Times. So it was in a global context, reaching tens, even hundreds of millions.
Now you are considered the most undiplomatic diplomat of all time.
We are expecting decisions that should help us.
It's a cry from the soul. That's why people react. Emotion means that a person starts to engage with it, think about it, and begin to take action.
Germany's Der Spiegel magazine is reporting that Berlin has delivered 18 long-awaited Leopard 2 battle tanks to Ukraine.
You had a rare opportunity to accompany the Leopard 2 tanks for Ukraine. What are your impressions? Besides that, Germany is sending the Iris-T. This is an air defense system, extremely important for the protection of Ukrainian cities.
Obviously, for that victory to come faster, we need international support. So we issued a stamp where you have F-16 helping us to make sure that the Kremlin no longer exists. We call it stamps diplomacy. Our stamps in the office of the President of the US, kings, prime ministers, the heads of the states, become a symbol which people, when they look at, they'll remember Ukraine.
I don't think it is a coincidence that the side which will win this war is the side that makes the best memes. Creativity.
The Russian Empire broke its teeth in the information war on Ukrainian memes. They were too tough for its propaganda machine. It started making excuses, banning, plagiarizing, and trying to catch up.
Russia, the Russian government, is putting in a lot of effort into producing memes, stealing memes, or producing their own memes. And so this question is, why are the memes not being effective in Russia? Why is Ukraine winning the meme war? Hi, Lydia. So great to finally catch you again.
I'm happy to see you.
It's nice that you have power again.
Yep, lucky hours.
So there's been something I've been meaning to ask you, since it really looked like Ukraine was not standing a chance against Russia in the war and even in the memes. So there's this paradox I wanted to ask you about. How is it that Ukraine is winning the meme war?
It's possible because of freedom.
The Russian-Ukrainian war is a war between two systems. It's a war of the free world against, on the other side, a world of the enslaved, a world of slaves. A free person can create, can see possibilities. I would draw a parallel between the meme war and the current drone war, where different groups are creating drones. We've even made drone fighters, drones that destroy other drones. And the Russians, including intelligent ones, analysts, experts, military personnel, say this is because Ukrainians aren't confined by the limits we constantly live under. This freedom gives a person the strength to win.
You know, Ukraine has a resource that Russia doesn't have, and that is people that really believe deeply in wanting to have democracy and freedom. In Ukraine, people have the freedom to be creative, and I think that is a key ingredient that makes the memes so powerful. Oh, here we go again. Putin's threatening another nuclear war. If it was here, I bet people would be going out and building bunkers, but you know what they did in Ukraine?
Hey Max, should we head up to Shchekovitsia? I've never been, and now we're so close.
So when Putin started talking about nuclear war, and yet again threatening to bomb Ukraine with nuclear weapons, instead of running and hiding Ukrainians came up with this mass social media call for people to come to a hill in Kyiv called Shchekovitya for an orgy.
Well, here we are at Shchekovitsa.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So, are you all here for the orgy?
It's over. You missed.
Missed it?
We just finished. Come back next week.
It was just madness. Everyone was saying Putin's about to launch a nuclear strike.
Yeah, it was absolute hysteria.
First breaking news overnight, Putin's new threat saying
For Vladimir Putin to use nuclear weapons,
including the potential use of tactical nuclear weapons.
People were buying gas masks.
And iodine. You couldn't find regular iodine in pharmacies. I don't think it even helps. But people were still buying it up.
Doesn't help, not
Lines
one
everywhere.
bit. And then, a lady tweeted that she was in a chat with friends, planning to go to Shchekovitsia in case of a nuclear strike. It went viral, instantly.
Yeah, it was some secret chat. People found it absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, Kyiv Swingers.
Something like that.
It was pretty funny.
And so this became kind of another meme of defiance, but it's this ultimate defiance because nuclear war is utter destruction. And so Ukrainians' response to this threat of utter destruction was to celebrate life to its fullest by planning an orgy.
Russia's ramping up the tension, saying, basically, we'll wipe you off the earth. And our Ukrainians are like, we're going to an orgy! Woohoo! However, it's awesome here.
We don't fully know what a nuclear weapon is like. I think we'll be mocking that topic as well.
The time for tears will come, but it's not now. When it's all over, you can sit down and cry, but right now, just keep moving forwards.
We underestimate memes. They represent a new subculture that's becoming a culture itself. It's a new form of communication. Maybe we need to start preparing people and bringing into diplomacy those who can think outside the box and find these connection points. Hitting that societal nerve is really not easy.
I hope there will be a victory stamp, and after that we may not be as popular, but these memes will always stay in history because it's part of this war, it's a part of the modern world.
This is a way to preserve history. I believe kids will study the war through memes. Memes have already become a cultural heritage.
It's undoubtedly the bravery of Ukrainians and their strength that stopped the Russians. There definitely has been an important part of the physical response, but memes also played a very important role. They were the glue that sort of, or the medium that helped Ukrainians share their defiant spirit. To know that they're not alone, that others are being defiant, that are not giving up. And it kind of was a way for people to build this community of valuing freedom, valuing Ukraine. It's memes that really helped them to do that.
I can't reveal the name of the person who made this statement due to security reasons.
I know this person personally because I served with him for a long time. He's married and happy.
He continues to serve. His career has flourished since the ship. Everything is going well for him.